Hi there, this is Bev, Clarkovision, and this is my contest entry for Rob at Blackstar Vinyl. Now, Rob launched a contest on the 13th of June, actually. This seemed a while back. I don't know, time at the moment and the whole way the year's going is just very weird for me at the moment. I cannot keep up at all with anything. I struggle to know what day it is, what month it is, what year it is at times, what season we're in. Anyway, so yeah, Robert Blackstar Vinyl. He has launched a contest back in the middle of June there, and he's just calling it basically the 500 subs. I've got his video below here. The 500 subs no frills contest, because he passed the 500 subscribers mark a while back, and he's well on his way to 600 plus soon, and rightly so, because Rob is a minefield of information when it comes to hard rock and metal. That's his thing, is hard rock and metal. You know, the golden era of the 80s, when rock and metal kind of, you know, took on all these various forms and produced all these wonderful different kinds of music. Is where his favourite bands and musical era comes from, as is mine and a whole bunch of others in the metal community. So I would suggest, if you aren't subscribed to Rob, I'll leave a link to his channel below. His channel is Blackstar Vinyl. He's hugely into Yngwie Malmsteen. Jordan Oram's another favourite guitarist of his. His favourite band is Dokken. He also loves kind of some of the symphonic metal bands and female fronted symphonic bands. Witherfall, that's one of his more modern favourite bands. Just loads and loads of, he likes his thrash, he likes his classic hard rock, his metal, classic metal, from all over. I mean, he knows about bands that didn't really make it big, in the way, you know, the likes of Dokken, for example, and all the household names. He knows the second tiers and the third tiers really well. You know, bands that were hidden under a rock or swept under the carpet, stuff like that. He'll know about them. So yeah, and he's a lovely guy. He's got a heart of gold. He's a great person. And as I say, his link's below. So in his No Frills contest, he's asking 3 things. The first one is you have to tell him about your fantasy music team or fantasy band that you would have, if you like. Now, I spent a great deal of time on this, and I just finished it off this afternoon, because I thought it'd be fairly easy, but it's so hard actually, because there's just so many musicians and artists and, you know, band players and God knows all what out there these days. It's kind of hard to fit all of them in. The easiest sections for me were drums and bass, to be but you know, even then, you know, there's a plethora of artists out there. So, and in this fantasy team of musicians, you've to list 5 vocalists, 5 of your favourite vocalists, 5 of your favourite guitarists, 5 of your favourite bass players, and 5 of your favourite drummers. And he's given 5 what is dubbing utility players, which are extras who may play another instrument or have another role in the band. So here's mine, right? And I don't know how long I'm going to blabber about this, but I'll try, and hopefully this will last more than 20 minutes. So here it goes, right? Here's my fantasy band, starting with the vocals. So I've picked Hansi Kirsch from Blind Guardian as vocalist number 1, because he's kind of got his own unique vocal sound. He's capable of lots of, kind of styles. I've put him in as well, specifically because he's a great vocalist. He can do various speeds. He can sing fast, he can sing slow, he can high and low, he can be clean, he can be a little bit growly or high pitched if he wants. He can do the whole thing really. And I've just noted, I've been on Wikipedia and just noted down various notes about why these people get in my band as well. He's a singer, he's a songwriter, he's played bass in the past. He used to be the bass player as well for Blind Guardian, but he's purely the singer. He's produced, he has a bunch of side projects, and he's been a guest he's made guest appearances on a whole load of other bands' albums. So, and I think his musical compositional ideas are quite expansive for me, so that's him. Number 2, Rob Halford, Judas Priest. I wanted some British in here, and well, he's British and he's Rob Halford. That's basically it. You know what Rob Halford's like. He is one of the greatest in metal, and he's one of my favourites, so Rob Halford. Number 3, Steve Lee, who's sadly passed, but because this is a fantasy thing, it doesn't matter if they're living or dead. So Steve Lee from Gotthard, Swiss singer, songwriter, and founder of that band, he gets in as my 3rd vocalist, because another amazing voice. The vocal range is up there with Rob Halford, and he's just is powerful, and his songwriting abilities as well. Person number 4 for the vocals, I've gone for Candice Night. I needed a female in there, because I've been listening to quite a few bands of recent times where there's a female vocalist either sharing the vocals or being the vocalist, female fronted, and there's a lot of good female singers out there that I am learning about now, as well as the ones from the past. You've got your classics like Doro and Ann Wilson and Joan Jett and all these folk. So I'm going with Candice Night. She's got a lovely soft, strong voice. Again, it can go through the ranges. Another reason I picked Candice Night actually is she's also she can play a few interesting musical instruments according to Wikipedia, kind of like woodwind type instruments, which I thought would be an interesting kind of flavour for what this fantasy band might be producing. Like all these, I wrote them down and I can't even pronounce them, but there's the shawm, whatever that is. I'm not even going to attempt that one. The penny whistle, the hurdy-gurdy, which is a stringed instrument thing. The chanter, which is the kind of this part of the bagpipes. It's like a flute or a recorder or something like that. The game shorn, and the cornemuse, and I've probably pronounced them all wrong, but they're all kind of woodwind style, or there's another one like the hurdy-gurdy. It's a stringy, but they're kind of folky style instruments. So that's another reason why she's in there. She can lend that. And singer number 5, well, I hummed and I hawed with 2 or 3. And I've decided this time I'm going to go with Ronnie Atkins of Pretty Maids. He's really grown on me since I discovered Pretty Maids a couple of years ago, and they've kind of become one of my favourite bands. And Ronnie Atkins, he's got a great voice, very powerful, and he can do high aggressive sounds or lower, deeper kind of sounds, but I think he's got kind of a gruffness to his voice, whereas the others I've just mentioned all have a more smooth kind of, although they can sound aggressive and gruff and screechy if they want, obviously, but I thought Ronnie Atkins brings a bit more of the gruff side than the others, and that's why I picked him instead of Bruce Dickinson or Eric Martinson. These were other contenders. So that is my vocalists. 10 minutes in already. I think I forgot to say at the beginning of this, this is kind of influenced a lot by the Avantasia project. So that has got a lot of influence as to what I want my fantasy band to be. 5 guitarists, right? No prizes, I'm afraid, for guessing who I'm going to say first. Steve Clark, again, he's passed on, but he gets in my fantasy band right away because he's just the absolute best as far as I'm concerned. He's one of these guitarists who he's emotional. He's got the feel thing. Where him and his guitar become this one thing. He's very much a feel player and a mood player. Plus, his songwriting abilities are kind of unique in a way. He's classically trained. He's got the music theory thing. He knows how to do orchestration and put great compositions together. So that, as well as him being the guitar player, that's him. Guitarist 2 is Adrian Smith. Again, Steve and Adrian are both British, so there's more British influence in here. I did want a bit of British in the band. I wasn't really focusing on where everybody came from, but I thought I just need to have British, and so there's British. And Adrian Smith, he's my favourite player from Iron Maiden, for no particular reason other than I just think he is the most melodic, and in a similar way to Steve Clark, he's very into tonal qualities, melody, feel, that kind of passionate kind of thing that you get from these feel players. So Adrian gets in as well for that, and his songwriting and just the way he expresses himself through the guitar as well. Guitarist number 3 is Sasha Paeth, or I don't know how he pronounces his surname. Paeth, Paeth. Sasha Paeth. So he is a German guitarist. He was originally in the band Heaven's Gate, but he does a lot of work with, he's got a plethora of bands listed on his CV, if you like, including Edguy, Epica, Camelot, Rhapsody of Fire. So he's worked with all these guys. He's been a producer and he's mixed stuff for people. So he is in there as a guitarist as well, and musical knowledge and stuff. Guitarist number 4, I'm going with another German, and that's Oliver Hartmann. And again, the nod to him goes because he's played the guitars for the Avantasia album in the background, plus others. He's also been in Iron Mask. He's in a band called Advance. He's got his own thing called Hartmann. He's been involved with Edguy, Hammerfall, Freedom Call, as well as guitars. He can also do vocals and bass and songwriting. So, but obviously he's the guitar player for this band mainly. So he brings a wealth of experience too. And guitarist 5, British number 3 actually, is, I've gone with Brian Tatler of Diamond Head. Simply because he's a Gibson player. There's a thing as well about Gibson players to me that are kind of slightly different from the super Strat players and all the rest of it. I think guitarists will get that more so than guitar people sort of understand that a wee bit better, but not that that is a major influence either. It's a slight influence, I guess, on me. He's a Gibson man. He's a no-nonsense riff man like Steve Clark as well. He's just got a great tone of guitars, and he's, great songwriting and great leads and stuff like that as well. So that's the guitars. Bass players, I have gone with Steve Harris of Iron Maiden because he's just unreal. I've picked Geddy Lee of Rush, Canadian. Now, I'm not a Rush fan, I hardly know anything of Rush's music, but I know his stature or status or whatever as a musician speaks volumes. So he's in there as the bass player, but again, he's also got he's got vocals, he's got keyboards and songwriting to his resume as well. Bass player number 3, I've gone for American Dennis Ward. This guy, I never really knew too much about him until recent times, but I've since learned that he's a pretty good class act, and he was the founder of Pink Cream 69. He's also founded Unisonic with Michael Kiske and Kai Hansen. He's been the bass player on Place Vendome. Again, that was a Kiske thing. He's currently Magnum's bass player as well. The band Magnum, he is kind of like officially their newest bass player, just for 2019 there. So he's got a wealth of experience, as well as again bass. He's also guitars, keyboards, vocals, a producer and a writer. So yep. Bass player 4, I've gone with Matt Sinner of the band Sinner, obviously. Again, another band I don't know a lot about, but again, he's another German, and he's been in Sinner. He's also in Primal Fear. He's been the bass player on the Kiske Somerville project, and he's done bass for Jorn Land on his solo works. And again, he's also does vocals and writes and produces, so plenty of talent there. And bass player number 5, I was thinking, well, who else can I pick? Bass players aren't like the standout heroes, if you like. So I went with, I decided to go with Jens Becker, formerly of Running Wild, and he's now in the band Gravedigger, I believe, as their bass player. But I liked, he was in Running Wild during my favourite period from 85 to 90. And so he played the bass on kind of like my favourite handful of Running Wild albums. So, you can hear he's a great bass player, and obviously if he's away in Gravedigger, another solid metal band for Germany, he's obviously good at what he does. So solid bass man in there, and I'm no doubt sure he has songwriting talents in there. Onto the drums. I'm just looking here. Yeah, this guy, I'm not sure again how you pronounce his surname. Apologies in advance if it's not right. Blind Guardian's drummer, Frederick Emke. Because Blind Guardian, the drums are solid. All the drummers here are all absolutely solid, top of their game drummers. So, and Frederick from Blind Guardian, he does the drums, but he's also got percussion, flute and bagpipes down on his resume, and I thought, okay, these could come in useful. Drummer 2, Ed Guy's Felix Bonke. I'm not really sure how to pronounce his surname either, but yep, Ed Guy, and also he's now the drummer for Avantasia as well. and again he is just absolutely rock solid. Drummer 3, Nico McBrain, need I say more? Drummer 4 is Henna Habiger from Gotthard. He's a Swiss drummer. He also did the drums for Cor Leone, which was Leo Leone's Gotthard project. So, and another top drawer drummer, just brilliant. Drummer 5, again I'm thinking, right, who do I pick? And so I just kind of picked, just thinking about all the bands I listened to, and I thought, right, I'll go with this guy, he sounds good enough. So I've gone with Tommy Portimo, I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce it, Portimo is how it looks, of Sonata Arctica. And Sonata Arctica, from what I've heard of them, again, the drummer's solid. So he's the current drummer. I think he's been there since the beginning, from what I recall. So that's my drummer. I might just list them below in the comments as well, because by the time I've waffled on all this nonsense, you'll have forgotten. So my utility players. Right, I thought, these are going to be 5 extras who can enhance this band. 1, Robert Plant. He's another vocalist. He's Robert Plant. You know what he's like vocals wise. He's unreal. He's had a plethora of projects post Led Zeppelin. So he's got the vocals and he's got the songwriting, and he must have a great kind of imagination musically as well. I think one of his more recent albums, 2018 it came out, I can't even remember what the devil he calls his, the something space, something shifters or something like that. That band, I quite liked some of the tracks I was hearing off of that, I thought were really cool. So yeah, Robert Plant was in, and the other reason I've put him in is that way he gets to work with Steve Clark, because he did inquire to Steve Clark's services in 1988. He went to a Def Leppard show and apparently asked Steve to join his band at the time, to which, for whatever reason, Steve didn't go with it. I don't know if it was due to other influences surrounding him, but it's probably one of the worst decisions he ever made, was to stick with Def Leppard. So that's the other reason why he's in there. And not many folk know that either, because, well, it probably makes the rest of the band look inferior, doesn't it? Utility 2. Tobias Sammet, he gets in because of this. His musical mind here to create such amazing projects. So yeah, as a songwriter, musician, he's also a vocalist, and he can play bass guitar as well, so that's why he's in. Utility person 3 happens to be Fabio Polo, who's is known as, again if I get this wrong, sorry, he's known as Lethan or Lithian perhaps, something like that. And he's from the band Elven King, the kind of Italian folk metal, symphonic folky metal band, and he is the violinist in that band. I thought I need to have a violinist in there, just because. Utility person 4 is Oliver Palotai. Oliver Palotai, or Palotai, I don't know. He's a German keyboardist, but he's got Hungarian descent, and he is Camelot's keyboard player currently. Yeah, he's mainly a keyboard player. He's also Doro's live touring keyboardist. He's worked with Epica, and he's worked with Blaze Bayley in the past. He gets put in there because he's keyboards. He also has guitars under his belt. He's also classically trained. That's another biggie for me. I love classically trained musicians in the metal world. and he's a writer and producer, and he teaches music and everything, so he has clearly got the credentials. And utility number 5 again is a keyboardist, Michael Rodenberg, and he gets the nod because he come up with he's the keyboard guy and did the orchestral arrangements for Avantasia. So he does a lot of the orchestral arranging, which is a good thing. Keyboards producer. He's been with Avantasia, Camelot, Heaven's Gate, and Rhapsody of Fire. So that's my band, my fantasy band. I thought with that plethora of creative artists, surely something decent has to come out of that I will want. Right, 5 albums that you have, what did Rob say? An emotional attachment to, whatever that emotion may be. And if you want to talk about it, you can. Well, I'll try and keep it brief. Album number 1, have a bit of an emotional attachment to Europe's Out of This World, because this was one of the very first hard rock bands, or metal if you want to class them as metal. I don't really class them as metal myself. I mean, I know in Britain there's a bigger difference between heavy metal and hard rock than there is in America, I think. And Europe would never get classed as heavy metal really in Britain. But anyway, so hard rock, melodic metal, whatever. Because this, as I say, it was one of the very first hard rock or metal albums I ever owned and heard, which basically kind of helped open the door for me into the rock and metal world. And it brings back a lot of good memories from the time, 1988. This one is only a year earlier. Belinda Carlisle's Heaven on Earth. Really loved the singles when they were released. Got the record. No, in fact, it was the cassette tape I got. I had the cassette first on this. And then the CD I got some years later. I only recently got the vinyl. But this holds a lot of memories for me as well, because this album coming out is probably responsible for me seeing her live. I saw her live when she came to Edinburgh on this tour for this album, and it was my first ever concert experience. I think I was 10 or 11 at the time, so, but yeah. Obviously, this one, it was the record I got first. This was the first vinyl record album I ever owned of a hard rock metal band. My dad got it for me in 1987. I even have a vague, it's a bit hazy now, the memory, but I can remember sitting on my bed in my room and just sort of gently pulling off the shrink wrap that was on it, and being kind of fascinated by all this interesting stuff, and reading all the names of the songs and that. But yeah, this was my main introduction to Def Leppard and the discovery of Steve Clark, and that's that really it just holds a lot of happiness because of that. And plus, the album is kind of, I keep saying it, has got a uniqueness to it that no other record has, I think, personally. And in complete and utter stark contrast, the follow-up to that album is this one, Adrenalize, which, as I say, in complete and utter stark contrast, when this album came out, I was going to buy it regardless because it was dedicated to Steve. But as most people will know, this was released after Steve had died. He had some songwriting credits for a work on a handful of the songs, and I got it. But I was not a happy bunny when I bought this. I don't even think I wanted to buy it. And when I think back, I just know I did not feel overly happy I was interested to hear what it was going to sound like. I thought, and I suppose the world was so interested, because in the general world, it was like, how do you follow up this with something better? And well, the answer is you can't, I don't think, you know. At the time, and for the kind of album this is and the way it was made, you were never going to get any better. It was kind of perfection of what it is perfection of what it is, you know, and anything else was never going to live up to it. And basically, this does not live up to it. But yeah, it was really bittersweet for me. It was just a really dark time, actually. This was released just over a year after Steve died, about April 92. He died in January 91. And interestingly, the single Let's Get Rocked peaked at number 2 in the UK singles charts, and for, you know, I can only assume the reason for that getting so high and doing so well was off the back of the success of this album, and possibly because Steve died, folk wanted to pay tribute or something. Because I can't see any other reason why. Okay, maybe the tune was catchy, but it came out in completely the wrong time. I mean, if I'm not, I could be mistaken, but I'm pretty sure that almost around exactly the same time as Let's Get Rocked was in the charts, Smell Like Teen Spirit was also in the charts. So, you know, you've got a major contrast there. But yeah, this does not hold very happy memories. It's more sad, bittersweet. And this one, after my years of losing interest in music and going right off the music altogether, come the year 2006 or 2007 maybe even, this album was released, and I decided one day, I'm not really sure how it came about, but I don't know if I was listening to something online or reading a review, and the reviews, as it says here, this is the original hype sticker, you've got a clip of a review or two from Metal Hammer and Kerrang and all that, and the reviews are like 10 out of 10, etc. I thought, I'm going to give this a go. Iron Maiden, they're British, they've always been a band I've liked. I want to just hear some proper heavy metal. So I picked it up, and I liked it. And the more I listened to it, the more it grew on me. And it was basically responsible for getting me back into listening to music again. And slowly, along with one or two other albums at the time, this was the main catalyst. And because it's Iron Maiden, it means a lot to me. And slowly but surely, I started, my interest in music, rock and metal music, came back. And so here I am today, kind of thing. And Iron Maiden became my new favourite band. Because at this point I had, you know, I was well at the realisation that Def Leppard were just a shadow of their former selves, kind of thing. So there's the 5, with fairly brief blabbering. Last but not least, question 3 is my crayon colour. I'm being added to the crayon box as a new colour. Oh God, you know, I really hadn't much of a clue, and then I thought, well, what kind of shades do you like, Beverly? And this is a colour that I like. And no, it's not burgundy, it is not maroon. For anybody who even dares to suggest anything to do with maroon and hearts, you can think again, because it is not the same colour. My crayon colour is called Red Currant, as in Arsenal Red Currant, and that is the colour. Red Currant, okay? Thierry Henry and Dennis Bergkamp. Arsenal are my football club. They're traditionally red and white, as in pillar box red, you know, blood red, that kind of red, bright red. Now, they moved to their newly built stadium back in, was it 1906? 1913, God, no, I was thinking the centenary. It was 2006 they left. They moved to their stadium Highbury, which is in North London, in 1913, and the first year they moved into there, they played in a red currant colour, as it was called, which is this deep, winey red, kind of like a Bordeaux wine. That's what I kind of like to look at it as, instead of their traditional bright red. And so when Arsenal played their final season, which is this season here, Final Salute it was nicknamed, and it's Thierry Henry with his golden boot from that season as well. This was the last season at Highbury, that was the last game at Highbury, which was in 2006. They went and their kit changed back to the classic vintage red currant, and so obviously that is my crayon colour. Red currant, classic vintage red currant. Thanks for watching, subscribe to Rob, and I'll see you later. Bye for now.